When a person in California is convicted and sentenced to 1 or more years in prison, they are sent to CDC. After induction, they are assigned a security level, 1 through 4, with 4 being maximum security and 1 being minimum security.
You have your hair in braids, knots, or a ponytail, once your hands are free, start getting loose.
San Quentin, or the Q, is the oldest and probably best known of all California prisons. Death row and the gas chamber are here. More than 260 condemned prisoners live here, awaiting the outcome of their appeals. About 4,000 other level 1 through 4 inmates populate San Quentin.
It's appropriate to start here in our tour of CDC because San Quentin was the first prison. Let's go back in time, back to 1852, when the land I'm standing on was a barren shore.
California's first prison was a ship, the Waban, anchored off Point Quentin. During the day, inmates labored to construct the main prison. At night, they were locked in the hold of the old ship. Construction on the state's second prison at Folsom began in 1858. It was made from granite quarried in the Folsom area by inmate labor. In 1880, 22 years after construction began, Folsom Prison opened. Today, both old and new Folsom house close to 7,000 level 1 through 4 inmates. Until 1944, each prison was under the separate management of a warden, with no overall policy direction or centralized administration. In 1944, the legislature convened a special session and created the California Department of Corrections. During the 1940s, 2 new facilities for men were opened: California Institution for Men, CIM, at Chino, and Correctional Training Facility, CTF, at Soledad. CIM now holds about 6,000 men at several locations on a wide tract of land. CTF Soledad houses levels 1 through 3 and holds about 6,000 men. Prison expansion continued into the 1950s with the completion of Dual Vocational Institution, DVI, at Tracy, California Men's Colony, CMC, at San Luis Obispo, California Correctional Institution, CCI, at Tehachapi, and California Medical Facility, CMF, at Vacaville. An important point to know is that the names given to these institutions when they were constructed reflect only part of their mission today. For example, Dual Vocational Institution, DVI, at Tracy, with about 3,000 men, offers vocational training, as do all institutions. But about half the facility now acts as a reception center to process incoming inmates. CMF, with more than 7,000 inmates, has a hospital and psychiatric ward, but so do other institutions. Like all the others, both DVI and CMF house a large number of general population inmates. California Men's Colony is home to around 6,000 men. A licensed hospital is located here, along with 1 complete wing for psychiatric cases. California Correctional Institution has about 5,000 men from levels 1 through 4. SMSC, or Southern Maximum Security Complex, was built here in 1985. Also known as Supermax, it contains some of the worst offenders in the state. In 1952, after the old women's prison at Tehachapi was damaged by an earthquake, a new women's prison opened at Frontera, the California Institution for Women, CIW. Today, it holds about 2,400 female prisoners. 3 facilities were constructed in the 1960s. These were the California Rehabilitation Center at Norco, CRC, California Correctional Center at Susanville, CCC, and Sierra Conservation Center at Jamestown, SCC.
California Rehabilitation Center at Norco began as a drug and alcohol treatment center for civil addicts. Today, it still has a large number of these individuals, but it also houses over 2,500 felons. It is the only prison in California's system where both men and women are permanently housed. Approximately 1,000 women live atop the hill near the administration areas. About 4,000 men live at California Correctional Center at Susanville. Another 4,000 live at Sierra Conservation Center near Jamestown. These prisons were designed as training facilities for inmates who work at conservation camps throughout the state. That remains an important function. But with overcrowding and prison expansion, both facilities also house general population inmates. During the 1970s, California's inmate population leveled off, so no new prisons were built. But the 80s were different. A get-tough attitude on crime, combined with a surging population, doubled the number of prisoners between 1980 to 1985, from 25,000 to 50,000. By mid-1988, the total had climbed to more than 72,000 inmates, with growth expected to surpass 136,000 by 1994. Out of this demand for new prison beds came voter-approved bond issues and other funds, totaling $3.2 billion for new prison construction. So began the largest construction program ever undertaken by any prison system anywhere. In 1984, the first new facility opened at CMF Vacaville. This was followed by new medium and new maximum security prisons at Tehachapi. In addition, several other prisons gained new Level 3 housing areas: Sierra Conservation Center at Jamestown and California Correctional Center at Susanville. California Institution for Women added a new Security Housing Unit, or SHU, also known as SHU. Folsom State Prison gained a new 2,000-bed Level 4 facility. In 1987, 4 completely new prisons were opened. Avenal State Prison holds over 4,000 Level 2 inmates. Mule Creek State Prison at Ione has 2,700 mostly Level 3 inmates. The Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility at Rock Mountain, RJD, near San Diego, has 4,000 inmates. And a new prison for women, the Northern California Women's Facility at Stockton, NCWF, has 400 new female beds. Early in 1988, California State Prison in Kings County at Corcoran opened. It houses about 4,300 Level 3 inmates. Later in 1988, the 2,000-bed Chuckawalla Valley State Prison, located near the Riverside County desert community of Blythe, received its first inmates. Under construction are the 2,300-bed Level 4 facility in Del Norte County, north of Eureka, and a 2,000-bed women's prison near Madera in the Central Valley. In the planning stages are 2 prisons in Los Angeles County. Several additional sites are under review.
The majority of CDC employees work in institutions like this one. This is the California Medical Facility at Vacaville. CMF is a prison, but like each institution, it's also a small, self-contained city. In addition to the inmates, its inhabitants include a myriad of custody and support personnel.
In corrections' battle for public protection, the frontline personnel are, of course, the correctional officers, or COs. Working with dangerous felons every day, they are constantly on the lookout for potential problems. Most situations are quietly handled using good people skills, long before a bullet has to be fired. Officers work in housing units, yards, control rooms, and the quintessential tower. Also in the front lines are the correctional sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and administrators, all contributing to a smoothly and safely run facility. There are also the correctional counselors, teachers, and industry supervisors, all professionals in their own right. From cooks to clinicians, truck drivers to groundskeepers, accounting technicians and secretaries, to personnel assistants at each institution. A host of support services and administrative personnel make sure that staff are hired, bills get paid, supplies are ordered, and that work gets done. Inmate health needs are looked after by CDC doctors, nurses, medical technical assistants, psychiatrists, social workers, and dentists. 3 prisons operate complete acute care hospitals, providing medical treatment and surgery. All other prisons operate inmate infirmaries for less critical medical needs. Inmates can further their education while in prison, from grade school coursework through college degrees. Vocational training is also offered, from air conditioning to auto mechanics, and micrographics to deep sea diving.
That's fine. Hold right there.
Like a city, each institution has factories and manufacturing facilities that produce products for internal and external consumption. That is the role of the Prison Industry Authority, or PIA, an agency separate from CDC but under control of the Youth and Adult Correctional Agency.
PIA employs about 9,000 inmates in its various institutional factories statewide and has annual gross sales in excess of $100 million. Most people have heard of the license plate factory at Folsom Prison, but PIA is also furniture manufacturing, clothing manufacturing and sewing, flag production, metal fabrication, printing, precast concrete, and even optical lens grinding. PIA plays a vital role. It not only gives inmates meaningful work habits and pay, but it saves California taxpayers over $40 million a year. It is also a key element in eliminating the danger of prison idleness and prison violence.
So the institutions are the biggest, most visible arm of corrections. Here's the organizational chart for the institutions division.
Half the prison wardens and superintendents report to one assistant deputy director, and half to another. The third assistant deputy supervises all healthcare professionals. Headquarters staff are divided into functional units such as transportation, education work incentive, classification, and emergency operations. They provide support and direction to institution staff in these areas. One of the most unique programs in institutions is the conservation camp system. More than 3,000 inmates are housed at 38 conservation camps located throughout the state. The camps are run by CDC staff and by California Department of Forestry personnel. The camps have no fences, no walls. Discipline is based on correction staff skill in creating pride and camaraderie among the inmates. Both male and female inmates provide thousands of hours of community public service work as well as firefighting during the dry months.
And during the rainy season, their help in flood control is essential. Their efforts save California taxpayers millions of dollars every year. Inmates receive training at Susanville or Jamestown before being classified as level 1s and sent to a camp.
Today, both the camp system and the institutions are strained to the limit with overcrowded conditions. CDC met the challenge of the 80s by building the ranks of another division, the Planning and Construction Division.
It has been and continues to be this division's task to carry out the governor's massive new prison construction program. It's a little like building 2 or 3 self-contained communities for a population of 2,000 to 3,000 people every year. The first step to building a new prison is selecting and establishing where it will be located. The Government and Community Relations Branch researches potential sites and goes out into California communities conducting workshops with local citizens. Here, people learn firsthand about prison security and the economic impacts of a prison in their community. After a site has been selected and the environmental studies are complete, the Design and Program Planning Branch assigns a new prison manager who oversees the prison's successful integration into the community. Design staff work with architectural and engineering firms to ensure that security, safety, and operational considerations are designed into their new facility. Next, the Construction Operations Branch assigns a project director and staff to oversee all aspects of the prison's construction. The staff of this branch form the partnership between CDC and private sector construction managers, architects, and engineers. In the Construction Support Branch, the many ways of funding the new prisons come into play. In addition to bond issues, this branch helps secure monies from the state general funds and special funding sources. The new prison construction projects are only part of this division. The existing facilities day labor branch manages construction and renovation at existing facilities. They also coordinate the use of inmate labor for renovation projects at existing institutions. The 1980s and 90s will record the success of the Planning and Construction Division's efforts, like meeting the challenges of designing and constructing the largest prison building project ever undertaken anywhere, of reducing the traditional construction time from 7 years to as low as 1.5 years. Like building revolutionary prototype units at an average cost of $60,000 per bed, and thereby saving California taxpayers millions of dollars. The California correctional system, designed and built in the 80s, will stand well into the next century as a monument to the innovative and resourceful personnel of the Planning and Construction Division.
This is another side of the California Department of Corrections. Behind me is one of more than 70 field offices of the Parole and Community Services Division. The parole agents who work here and in other parole offices form the front line of corrections presence in the community. The men and women of parole supervise close to 50,000 felons after they are released from prison.
The division is comprised of several branches. The largest is field operations, where the day-to-day parole supervision takes place. Region 1 covers the entire Central Valley, from Bakersfield to the Oregon border. Region 2 covers the San Francisco Bay Area. Region 3 handles most of Los Angeles County. And Region 4 encompasses the San Diego area up into the southeast portion of Los Angeles County. In each of these regions, the goals are the same: to provide public protection by successfully transitioning people from prison back into society. The parole agent's job is varied and challenging. For each parolee, the agent conducts a needs and assessment analysis to determine how often the parolee is seen, what services are needed, and what conditions will be placed on the parolee. Much of the agent's time is spent in drug testing and counseling the parolee. If the parolee violates any of the rules or commits a new crime, the agent must be ready to arrest and reincarcerate the parolee. Parole and Community Services Division also manages several important community reentry programs.
Work furlough programs offer less restrictive living facilities to selected offenders within 120 days of parole. Here, at centers operated by both CDC and private organizations, counselors help the inmate get employment and educational or vocational training. At prisoner mother centers, qualified female inmates live and care for their children under the age of 6. Mothers receive training in parenting skills and can also participate in vocational training and work furlough. Return to custody centers help increase public safety by providing a place that technical parole violators can be housed yet remain closer to their families. The Substance Abuse Revocation Diversion Program, or SARD, uses intensive parole supervision, counseling, referral, and electronic monitoring to keep parolees with drug or alcohol dependency from returning to prison. The Parole Division also operates 2 psychiatric outpatient clinics, one in Northern and one in Southern California. Attendance at these clinics is often a condition of parole for parolees with emotional problems. The role that Parole and Community Services Division plays is essential to CDC's mission. It helps make California a safer and better place to live. The Department of Corrections reaches almost every corner of California, but headquarters is here, central office in Sacramento. Actually, the building is home for only part of Sacramento's CDC staff. There are other work sites in the city, but here we find most of the administrative CDC staff. Evaluation and Compliance Division's job is to improve the effectiveness of departmental policy and program decision-making. It does this by analyzing how CDC systems work and making recommendations for improvements. The 5th and smallest division is Legal Affairs Division. Under the Office of the Chief Counsel, the division acts as House Counsel, providing legal opinions and liaison with the State Attorney General's office. Legal also works with the Planning and Construction Division to review all outstanding construction claims against the department by contractors and handles those claims that go to arbitration. Before we look at the last CDC division, let's take a look at several very specialized parts of the department's organization. CDC has several unique offices which don't come under any division, but instead report directly to the Chief Deputy Director. The first of these is Communications, which is responsible for both external and internal communications for the department. As CDC's official spokesperson to the press, radio, and television news, the office handles up to 2,000 media calls a month. It also produces information materials for the general public, such as brochures and television programs. The office also fosters internal communication by publishing the monthly newsletter, Correction News, and videos like the one you are watching. Legislative Liaison Office tracks all legislation affecting corrections in the state legislature, develops bills on behalf of the department, and handles inquiries from state and federal legislators. The next office, Law Enforcement Liaison, is sometimes referred to as Special Services. This office works with local police statewide and helps solve major crimes when inmates or parolees are suspected. It also conducts internal investigations and polygraph tests. Labor Relations Office promotes a harmonious labor management relationship by implementing collective bargaining laws for rank-and-file employees negotiating labor contracts. The Affirmative Action Office helps ensure there is equal employment opportunity and that CDC work environments are free from unlawful discrimination. Program Development Office helps foster a cooperative relationship between the department and the private sector, particularly in the area of inmate work programs. The last office is Community Resource Development. Here, staff help bridge the gap between CDC and the community by administering inmate visitor and self-help programs. The last CDC division is the only one that all of you have already had experience with, the Administrative Services Division, or ASD for short. This division, like all the others, has responsibilities statewide, from the institutions to the field offices to central office in Sacramento. In a sense, ASD provides the fuel that keeps CDC operating. While Administrative Services Division's role is quite different from the other divisions, the way it carries out its tasks aren't different. And this is an important point in understanding how things work within CDC.
Various branches or sections at headquarters may have functional oversight over operations at the institutions, but they may not have direct supervision. Here's an example. Personnel staff at each institution receive functional direction from the department's personnel officer, but they are directly supervised by institution staff. Thus, functional direction comes from the ASD, while day-to-day supervision and chain of command falls under the institutions division. In areas such as medical services, education, or classification, functional direction may come from one branch in institutions, while supervision flows through another. This separation of functional versus supervisory responsibilities is especially true for the Administrative Services Division. It's this division that tests, screens, and hires all CDC staff. It sees that training, funding, contracting, and information needed both inside and outside the department is acquired and processed. Most of the division is split into two major areas: financial management and support services, and human resources management. Let's look at financial management first. Managing CDC's annual budget in the billions of dollars is no small task. The Accounting Management Branch sets and implements departmental accounting procedures and policies. Budget Management Branch develops and manages funds for the annual CDC budget. Contract and Business Services Branch handles new prison construction contracts as well as all larger institution contracts. It administers the feeding program for all institutions, camps, parole and community centers, and coordinates purchasing. Each institution has its own business services office and accounting office, which handle local affairs, and each indirectly reports to the division in Sacramento. A separate, smaller branch, the Offender Information Services Branch, updates and maintains computerized offender databases and prepares important reports and estimates on inmate and parolee populations. On the other side of this large division, in Human Resources Management, there are three branches: Personnel, Health and Safety, Selection and Standards, and Training. Personnel Examining and Personnel Services coordinate policies statewide. Each institution has its own personnel office, which indirectly reports to this branch. Selection and Standards Branch has two key sections: background investigations and correctional officer selection. It's the job of the staff in these sections to attract, recruit, and check well-qualified applicants to meet CDC's staffing needs. The Training Branch's job may be obvious, but its tasks are not. This branch coordinates statewide in-service training for each institution and for central office staff. It also runs the Correctional Officer Training Academy located near Galt in the Central Valley. New COs live at the Academy, studying 46 different subjects during their 6-week stay. Their training includes intense classroom study, range training, and, of course, regimental drills. Upon graduation, these new COs join peace officers sworn to enforce the laws of California. Graduation time for each new wave of recruits is a moment well-deserved. To many of these men and women, it marks the beginning of a lifelong commitment to the field of corrections and to a career in the department.
Dedicating myself before God, to my chosen profession, law enforcement.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed your brief inside tour of the Department of Corrections, the largest state department in California. What you've seen here is only an overview. CDC is far too complex to discuss details in this television presentation. If you have questions which have not been addressed on video, you may find more answers in this, CDC's orientation brochure. If you don't have one, ask your supervisor for one. We hope you'll profit from this orientation and your trip inside California Corrections.